Man shows up, says he make $183,000 per year, and he's had 4 rental properties. Let's go ahead and evaluate that because I always want to go into the money, and then we're going to go from there. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. The link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Also, on top of that, the best day to join the Patreon is the first day of the month. The best day to join the Patreon, first day of the month. I'm dropping a video today in the Patreon.
When I bought my first property, that was the most exciting and nerve-wracking time of my life. But I do feel like my story will help others see what's possible and hopefully inspire others to take action and control their life and get on the path to be financially free. If I feel uncomfortable or I feel fear, that means I'm learning. And that's what I felt when I bought my first property. I did not let fear take control of my actions. My name is Karan Vij. I'm 33 years old. I make $183,000 and I live in Chicago.
And he live in Chicago. And he live in Chi-Town stand up. It ain't just a place for y'all to get robbed at. It's a place where somebody making a lot of money and he got a lot of rental properties. Let me hear what he got to say. I'm going to drop the link in the chat shortly. Y'all do not have to be on camera. I'm only taking calls. I'm not going to pull you on camera, especially if you don't want to be. If you just insist that you want to be on camera, then we'll have the conversation. But I'm going to take calls. You guys do not have to be on camera.
This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a long-term investment.
I tell people that all the time.
There's some months that you're going to make a lot of money. There's some months you're going to break even. And there's some months that you're going to lose money.
Nah, we're not going to lose no money.
In my enterprise, I average around $15,000 per month, and I have a portfolio worth over $3 million.
So he's $3 million, $2.3 million US. So that's Canadian versus US, all right? So let me say this also, right? Net worth is much different than income, all right? And then be very, very careful of people that tell you that they own this many millions of dollars worth of property, okay? Because they can be in control of it. They could own it technically if you want to go into that. But the question that you want to ask yourself is how much in equity do you have? Because the equity that you have in a property is the thing that substantiates your net worth. Okay, let me give you an example. Somebody can own $3 million in real estate. I want to break it down in a very simple C student's perspective. Somebody can own $3 million in real estate. Let's say that they own 6 houses, $500,000 a piece, $3 million in real estate, right? You're right, Yakar. What they're really doing is they're financing that. And so as they continue to gain equity in a property, and the two ways that they gain equity in a property is A, by paying off the property, paying more into the principal, which means that it's lowering the amount of money that you owe on the property. And then B, the value of the property hopefully going up and not down, but the value of property going up. And so when it gets appraised, basically the value of that property versus how much you owe into it is what contributes into your net worth. That's the equity that you have inside of the property. You have $100 million you got a $500,000 property, you owe $400,000 on it. That means that your net worth based off of that property alone is $100,000. Now you can pull that equity out of it. You can do different things from it. You can get a loan. You can then leverage that in order to get more properties. But then that's when you have to start doing the math. So when they tell y'all kids, I know a lot of y'all like to tell y'all kids, hey, math don't mean nothing. It means a lot. Because the numbers is the thing that the true thing that matters. And so different people have different strategies when it comes to building up their real estate portfolio. A lot of people like to acquire the property and then over a period of time, pull the equity out of the property to try to get another property. And so then they owe more on that property. They lose the equity in their property, but they technically still own a $500,000 property. You see what I'm saying? And so they're in control of 2 properties, but they only may have $100,000 in equity between the 2. They may be in control of $1 million worth of property, but it does not necessarily mean that they have $1 million in equity or they have $1 million net worth. It means that they have a net worth of roughly $100,000 if you have $100,000 in equity. Let's say you owe 50,000 on this one, or 100,000. You have $100,000 in between what you owe and the amount that's owed on the property. And then on this property, you pull all of the equity out of it in order to buy the second one. Then you're starting to get a little bit more risky. You see what I'm saying? Because now you're carrying two properties and you're becoming interdependent on your renters in order to keep you afloat. Now, let's say, for example, one property over here, and I'm gonna get back into the video. Let's say, for example, this property over here, and this is the reason why I don't agree with a lot of these real estate gurus, right? Because yes, you can build wealth that way, and I'm not arguing against the ability to build wealth because there's certain different ways in which you can operate within real estate. But I believe in paying off the properties, and the reason that I do that is because I take less risk. Your ability to be able to carry that property if you have multiple vacancies, or let's say, for example, the pandemic happened. When the pandemic happened, they basically had to ask for a moratorium as a owner of the property because in certain cities, in most of the United States of America, they didn't require you to be able to pay rent or to have to pay rent. And so the landlord have to carry that property. So let's say you got 4 different properties, such as this man right here, right? And let's say they're $500,000 a piece. And let's say that the rent on those properties is between $2,000 and $3,000, let's say $2,500 per property. So now you have $10,000 in costs that you were basically getting coming over into your coffers. And the overwhelming majority of that, let's say $9,000 of that was going towards the mortgage, the insurance, the property taxes, and then any maintenance that come along with it, right? But now you got 3 of those people that decide that they don't want to pay rent. 1 other people tore up the property. And so you still got to carry $9,000 in costs, even though you may only be getting $2,500 in rent. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Because they keep telling you to just throw money into real estate, but they're not necessarily telling you the risk that's involved. What you gonna do? Because your ability to be able to carry 4 mortgages with only 1 rent payment, and you got to turn over a property, what you gonna do? This is the part of the conversation that they're not gonna have for you. Now, on the flip side, let's say you take somebody like me that paid off the mortgage. It's a completely different conversation because not only is the majority of the rent, all of the rent almost, because yeah, you're going to take out some money in order to make sure that you account for any future maintenance. You got to pay the property taxes. You got to pay the homeowner's insurance or whatever, so on and so forth. But let's just say, for example, you got me, right? And I own 100% of the properties and I have no mortgages. I don't have the same risks that you do in order to try to build up wealth because I understand that the inherent risks that come along with it, I'm not willing to sustain it in order to continue to call myself a real estate investor. I know people that have a horrible stomach for continuing to do real estate because they had multiple different tenants that maybe had a problem or didn't pay the rent or they didn't vet one effectively and then the next person didn't do it or whatever. Or you got these people, somebody have a nightmare tenant where this guy is a professional thing where he knows it's going to take you 2 years to get him out of the property over there in California. So he's not going to pay it. And then he's going to keep filing stuff and all of this stuff. Listen, there's a lot that goes along with being a real estate investor. And if you do not understand the game and if you just jumping into it based off of some advice that somebody gave you or a course that somebody told you, and they're not giving you the full context to understand the risks and the rewards that come along with it, you are going to find yourself in a heap of trouble. You make $60,000, $70,000 a year. You carrying 7 properties because you pulled the equity out of it and you did this and you used the fact that you was a veteran in order to, man, listen. Understand the risks, understand the rewards, and move very, very strategically because nothing is 100% guaranteed. It's all risk involved. Let me play some more of this because I want to see his strategy. I'm going to drop the link in the chat for y'all to be able to ask a question.
In our family was to secure your future by making money.
And he make $183,000 a year too.
Are traditional in a sense. They always had a focus on wanting their kids to have an education and secure a 9-to-5 job. I've always had that in my brain. I've always wanted to be number one. I wanted to win. I wanted to use as much of my time as possible to make as much money as possible that I could. The biggest thing I've splurged on recently is spoiling my baby with new clothes. I do have some credit card debt, Because of the newborn, there's been a lot of unexpected expenses. However, I also chose not to pay off all of it because I'm using the money to, again, buy more assets. I use my line of credits strictly for the business. I either use them for any upcoming expenses that were not expected, or I use them to buy further assets.
So in his case, he's leveraging the line of credit. Maybe he got a HELOC, maybe he got whatever. He's using a line of credit in order to float himself if he ever has any kind of problems with the property, such as what I explained, or he's got to make sure that he take care of something, or you want to expand the business. He's using it for both to expand the business and probably get more properties, along with the idea that just in case anything happens, then he can use that in order to continue to sustain itself, right? So he's using it differently.
I have low monthly expenses because one of the perks that I have in my job is I do get a company car, which covers gas and insurance. The other perk is I get a company phone. I absolutely love debt.
But he's still being frugal.
I only like good debt. You have to use it properly. Good debt is debt that you have a strategy for. Good debt is when you use the debt for the purpose of generating future accelerated profits.
And again, there's multiple different strategies that come along with it. A lot of people like to call it good debt, bad debt. I think that all debt is bad, but you can leverage it to continue to expand and grow if you use it carefully. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, but I want y'all to get the entire context.
$100,000 cash that I'm using to buy up more property when the price is right. I also have this $100,000 sitting in a high-interest savings account, generating over 5% of almost risk-free interest.
So he's making $5,000 off of 100. I don't like it. I don't like it personally, but it's the safest way for him to be sitting on $100,000 in his mind, I'm guessing. There's no wrong answer here.
Take advantage of my 401k. I save over 10%. However, my long-term strategy is to buy up as much real estate as possible, and that's the strategy I'm executing.
Which is similar to the strategy that I'm using. I'm going to pin this to the top of the chat for y'all to ask whatever questions y'all want to ask.
I realized that the houses that we were renting were all charged per room. It wasn't a house. The landlord was charging per room. And when I did the math, I realized that by charging per room, you could actually accelerate your gains compared to any other real estate option.
The problem with that, though, is that you have more turnover, right? And it's similar to having an Airbnb. It's a very similar strategy in that he likes to probably go into a college town and then charge per room. They do that up in Ann Arbor a lot, based around the University of Michigan. You can get away with that around a college town a lot more also. But it's similar to Airbnb, but a just slightly different business model. I like to have the long-term lease and just have one family in it, and that allows, and you can be way more profitable because charging per room, it's almost like if you go to Sam's Club and you buy it by the box, or you can buy it and then sell the individual packages, which is what small other businesses and gas stations do, right? Like you can buy it by the box and you can sell it per, right? You can be that person, or you can sell it wholesale. You can be the dope dealer and sell it by the key, right? You can sell it by the pound and you can sell it by the key. Or you could be the person that sell about a nickel, dime. You know what I'm saying? You can do it all that way.
Decided to
telling people the biggest investment that you can make first is in yourself, that then allows you to even be able to get into the game. Everybody is trying to life hack their way through into success. But the reality is that you have to invest in yourself first. And the best way for you to do that is to invest in yourself and then create a bigger shovel that allows for you to then get into the game and then leverage it even more once you realize the success that comes along with it. I'm about to start pulling y'all up. I just want to see a little bit more of this. They don't. In Ann Arbor, up by the University of Michigan, largely didn't even experience a recession in 2008 like the rest of the country, and even Metro Detroit did.
And number three, a lot of people...
That's why they say location, location, location.
People think that one of the negatives is the high turnover because of the shorter term leases. That is true, but that is also the opportunity for higher gains because you can now readjust your rent to the current market levels.
All right, that's enough. Shout out to him. That's a really good strategy. I like his strategy. I think it works for him For me, my strategy is a little bit different. You know what it is that I teach in the Patreon. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description, as well as tip into the top of the chat.